Chairman. Dr. Kraft, in your testimony, you state that an estimated 6.5 million people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area are breathing air that does not meet the federal health standards for ozone. You also indicate that due to concerns over high levels of ozone, the Dallas Medical Association petitioned the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to reduce pollution from three coal-fired power plants that contribute to a high ozone level in Dallas. Is the current EPA ozone standard adequate to protect public health, or can you tell us more about the health effects from exposure to ozone?
Yes, thank you. So currently the EPA ozone standard is not adequate to protect public health, as been mentioned and supported by hundreds of scientists and doctors around the country. I want to be clear about one specific item. EPA is not trying to set some de minimis risk level where we won't have any exposure effects from ozone. The estimate and the slope factor for the risk is in the range where we see exposures right now. And what that means is that because we're in the range where the risk is occurring, EPA is simply trying to reduce that risk by lowering the standard. The degree to which that standard is lowered is informed by volumes of evidence ranging from mechanistic studies, epidemiological studies, and human exposure studies. We're not getting rid of all of the risk just because we happen to lower the standard. With regard to the health implications of ozone, ozone at concentrations below the current standard is linked to impaired breathing and increased use of medicine for children with asthma, and to increased visits to hospitals and emergency rooms for lung diseases. We also know that ozone is linked to cardiovascular effects and premature death, as well as new research linking ozone to low birth weight in newborns. I wanted to just clarify one point, too, that was made by Chairman Shaw regarding the flexible permits. The flexible permits issue was not something that came up recently. That issue has been going on for 2 decades, back when Ann Richards was governor of Texas. And so, you know, I'm really happy to hear that the state is working well with EPA. The fact is that most of the facilities that had flexible permits, which was around 140 facilities in the state, had already transitioned out of those permits. So just a quick point of clarification there. Thank you.
Industry groups in states complain that the background ozone levels are a major obstacle for communities in meeting current ozone standards. Has the EPA created any flexibility in its compliance for programs for states with these challenges?
So EPA's newest review, which was released, I guess, earlier this week, does use advances in modeling techniques to estimate contributions of different sources of ozone in the atmosphere. What we know is that it doesn't matter where the ozone comes from. The health effect is there. And so when EPA sets the standard by law, it must base that decision solely on what it takes to protect public health with an adequate margin of safety. In other words, the only legitimate concern is the impact on human health. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It is critical that we begin to take steps towards curbing our carbon emissions to address climate change, and I support the EPA's pursuit of sound, scientifically based greenhouse gas rules that will spur a new generation of clean electricity generating facilities and curb harmful carbon emissions at some of our nation's oldest coal and natural gas fired plants. I find some of the arguments by my colleagues across the aisle that addressing climate change is too costly to be the height of irresponsibility, given that we already know that our planet is growing increasingly warm as a direct result of human activities. And let me hasten so I can give you this question. What are the environmental and public health risks if unchecked carbon pollution at coal and natural gas plants is allowed to continue? Dr. Kraft.
Thank you. So in September of 2013, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report was released with 7 key findings. It's virtually certain that the planet has warmed since the mid-20th century. Scientists are 95% certain that humans are the principal cause. Further warming is imminent, and short-term records do not reflect long-term climate trends. The surface could warm anywhere from 2.7 to 7.2 degrees. The melting pace of land ice is accelerating in the Arctic and Antarctica. The IPCC's estimates of temperature and sea level rise are conservative, and weather extremes are expected to change from human influence. Now, with regard to the health implications of all of these impacts, in 2010, the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, which is the premier environmental health organization in the world in RTP, published a report on the human health consequences from climate change. The report found 11 human health impacts as a result of climate change, including increases in asthma, respiratory allergies, and airway diseases, increases in cancer, increases in cardiovascular disease and stroke, increases in foodborne diseases and nutrition, increases in heat-related morbidity and mortality, human developmental effects, mental health and stress-related disorders, neurological diseases and disorders, vector-borne and zoonotic diseases, waterborne diseases, and weather-related morbidity and mortality. Thank you.
My time has expired. Thank you.